So let's take a look at electropneumatics, specifically how to use Automation Studio to build an electropneumatic circuit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build the pneumatic circuit, and then we're going to build the ladder logic circuit. I'm going to show you where the components are in the menu, and I'm also going to show you how to link components from the electropneumatic drawing to the actual ladder drawing. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start defining kind of what I'm going to build. So I'm going to build a circuit where my cylinder is going to go, if I press play, it's going to go out and come back, and that's it. Now, I'm using a spring return DCV. So I'm obviously going to need a holding circuit in my diagram. This is my solenoid. It's going to be A+. I mean, this is the cylinder A, let's say. So what I want to do before I start anything is I want to fill in some of the stuff here, and then I'm going to jump into the ladder. So what I want to do is I want to put a limit valve in here, or more specifically a limit switch, because we're doing electropneumatics. Now, I'm going to go over to pneumatic because the limit switch itself is something that goes in the pneumatic drawing. So anything that goes in this pneumatic drawing, you're going to want to go into pneumatics. Anything that goes into the ladder drawing, you're going to go over to this JIC. We'll talk about what that is in a little bit later. So let's just jump into this. So pneumatics. Okay, so I need some kind of switch in here, right? Well, the switch is a sensor. So I'm going to go down to sensors. Now there are couple different places I can find this. One is, I can find it in the main root menu, but I'm going to just jump in here to say, if it wasn't in here, where would I find it? Well, I could say proximity sensors, and that doesn't seem to work, so just go down and look through them. Now, this is actually on the bottom in others, and right here, it's right on the top. So I'm going to grab this. Now, if I wanted, I could find it normally closed, but I want it normally open. So I'm going to drag it in here and drop it in here. You know I got to connect it with that little triangle there. So the thing is, when I let go of this, it's going to ask me what it is. Every time you put a component on here, it wants to know what it is. So it's my limit switch, and it's my limit switch A+, assuming that's A cylinder. So capital L, lowercase s, space A+. There you go. That's what it's named. So I now have a name for that. I can go ahead and make my ladder logic now. We'll name this a little bit later when I'm going to associate it to something that's in the ladder logic, which is my solenoid symbol. Okay, good. So first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to buzz over to the PowerPoint here for electropneumatics, and I'm going to jump on this. I'm going to say, you know what, I want this circuit. I'm going to build this circuit. So I'm either going to have it on paper because I did it on paper already, or I have it already in some drawing somewhere. By the way, this is a pretty cool PowerPoint, so take a look at it, and it's got all of these electropneumatic components in it. It talks about different switches and stuff. I've put actually a pressure switch in here, which is pretty cool, a little bit of safety stuff as well, but you can see some of the components kind of taking place. These are reed switches, pretty cool reed switches. They're limit switches that actually don't go onto the cylinder, the end of the cylinder. And then some more discussion about the symbols you'll see in a pneumatic drawing, and then the symbols you'll see in a ladder logic drawing for a pneumatic circuit. There you go. So take a look at that. Now let's continue here. Let's put a ladder diagram in here. So I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to close pneumatic because I'm not using pneumatics anymore. I'm using this JIC. So the Joint Industry Council, we'll take a look at that in a second, defines symbols for ladder logic circuits. So let's actually take a look over here. So I've got this guy going up here. So that's the Joint Industry Council. They've defined what the symbols look like for ladder logic, all ladder logic, not just pneumatics. There we go. So, and these guys, this WOMAC guys, I don't know who they are, but they're pretty cool. They actually have really nice list of all different kinds of symbols and stuff that go into ladder logic. So I'm actually going to post this on Blackboard because it's a really nice link. So if you're ever wondering, like, dude, how do I draw a float switch? Or how do I draw a level switch? What's the difference between the two? Well, there's a difference here. So you could go in here and take a look at them. Again, it's good for all of your ladder logics. Okay, good. So I'm going to go into my JIC, and I'm going to start to draw my power lines. So I'm going to just click on the main menu, and I'm going to go here, 24 volts, and I want my 0 volts over here. I'm going to put them a little bit separate there. I think they're even, but we'll find out in a minute. No, they seem to be off. There you go. So now what I'm going to do, as opposed to just putting kind of a rung in here, I know that there's somewhere in here that you can find kind of a pre-made kind of rails, I think with some rungs on it, and you can fill it in, I think. Anyway, I don't use that. I just go ahead and start building it with components. So the first thing I want to put in here are some contacts. So I'm going to go back to this guy. Now I think the contacts will be here. Yeah. You can also find these in here, contacts. Okay, actually those are contacts from relays. No, these are, look, that's push button, push button. I have other contacts. I think, oh, switches. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. What I do is I always put my termination contact the first thing on my rung. So now I'm actually going to end up putting another termination contact in here that's going to be from my LS A+. So putting a little room in there. I never put anything between my holding circuit and my relay. And the reason for that is because it makes it easier to wire it up. Okay, now I want to put my coil in. So where do I find my coil? I'm just going to go to the main menu and it's going to be in here. So I'm going to find my coil. There's a coil there. So I'm dropping a coil, and when I do this, it will want to know what the name is. So I'm going to call it R1. Whenever you drop a component in, you've got to name it. Okay, good. So I'm going to start hooking up this first rung. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and we'll go here and then over here and click over there. I think you guys can handle this. Now, right here, I'm going to put this in here. I know that I'm going to put a termination contact in there, but I'll deal with it later. Okay, so I want to deal with my holding circuit. So I'm going to go over here to contacts. Good. So I've got my contact. I want to normally open contact. Again, when I drop it in here, it's going to want to know what the name is. Now, here's the first time we're going to associate two things together. We're going to associate this contact with this relay. Okay, I'll drop that in there. Now, it wants to know what it is. Here's how you associate two things together. I'm going to go down on this list and find my R1. I made it. I put it there. There it is. Now I'm going to double click on it. When I double click on it, you'll see this little question mark will turn into R1. Ready? Here we go. See? Done. So I'm going to close this guy, and now that is called R1. Now I'm going to wire this up. Nice. Wire that guy up there. Now I can actually run this. Let's just take a look and see what happens. So I'm going to run this guy, and I'm going to press play here, and this should come on and it should stay. It does. That's showing that it's closed or active. Now I'm going to hit stop and kill it. Okay, good. So it's nice to kind of do rung by rung, and as you build a rung, just kind of test it to see if it's working. Now, what do we want to do next? Well, we want to make this thing go. So I want to put a solenoid in here. And actually, I'm going to put it in parallel with this. You know what? I told you earlier that I was going to grab this picture and put it in here. Sorry, I didn't. Here we go. Here we go. Where's the picture? Okay, so I'm just going to right click on this and copy it. And I'm going to go right back to Automation Studio, and I'm just going to click and paste. You can put any image in here you want. You can put anything in here that you want. Okay, good. So that's done. So now I know how to build it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my solenoid and my relay in parallel. I'm going to put my solenoid underneath my relay, even though it's kind of looks like this here. It doesn't matter if it's above or below. It doesn't matter. So where do I find solenoids? What's going on here? Output components? Yeah, well, seems to be. So an output is, I mean, you know the inputs. They're contacts and sensors and switches, and the outputs are like relays and motors and solenoids and things that go, right? So here we go, output. Now, again, when I drop this down, it's going to want to know what I'm going to call it. So I'm going to call it Sol A+. Sweet. Okay. Now I'm gonna wire that up. I was just about to say hose it up. Okay, so I'm gonna hose that up with wires, and there we go. So now what's gonna happen is I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna tell this guy to be associated with this guy. I'm gonna click on this guy and I'm gonna go right here. It's all I do is go down here and I find my solenoid. So I'm looking for solenoid A+. Double click on it and you'll watch this little guy turn into solenoid A+. Done. I'm gonna close it again. I'm going to press play on here and just test it to see what happens. I think what's going to happen is it's going to go out and it's going to stay out as soon as I hit stop. It does. Okay. Now, sorry, start. And when I hit stop, it will retract. Okay, good. So now let's get it so it does it automatically. So what I want to do is add this rung in here. I'm going to need another relay, and I'm going to need this contact over here. So where do I find a contact for a ladder logic circuit that's a limit switch? Well, I go into my JIC, and you can just poke through them and you can look through them, but essentially what I'm looking for is switches because it's a switch. Okay, so no, it's a sensor switch. I think that makes a little bit more sense. A switch would be like if you just press it. It's something that's activated with your finger, but a sensor switch tells you about information that an event has happened. Okay, so I'm going to go into sensor switches. I want to normally open, so I'm going to drop that in there, and I want it right there. I'm going to put it right kind of under my stop so I kind of look consistent. Oh, wants to know what it's called. Oh, I'm going to associate it with this guy. So I'm going to double click on that. And again, it's like, this is a question mark. What am I? Well, I'm going to go down to my LSA+, double click. There you go. Perfect. So now this guy is called that. I need a relay coil in here. So I'm going to go over to line connection. Oh, you know what? The coils are in here. I just grabbed them in here. I don't actually know. I don't know where else they are. I don't know. They're in the main menu. Here we go. So I'm going to grab a coil and I'm going to throw that in there. You can also get timers in here. So that's called R2. And the timers are actually called delayed coils. What are they called? They have coil with delay. Anyway, there we go. So I'm going to wire this guy up. Now watch this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to click here. And then I'm going to go up. Now I can go anywhere. It's just that I'm saying that I want a right angle there. Whoa, I just did something weird. Okay. I'll click on that. Now I'm going to line this guy up here. I'm going to go over here. Double click that. And then I'm going to go here. Click there. And I'm going to come up here. Double click. No, just single click. Okay, good. So now this guy works, although I don't have a contact in here. I have to put a normally closed contact in here. So what am I going to do? How am I going to do that? I'm going to go over to my contacts. I'm going to grab a normally closed and I'm going to put it in here. Now, can I just drop it in there? Well, the thing is I can't. But right now, I've just dropped it. It wants me to name it. So I'm going to name it and associate it with my R2. So I'm going to go down to R2, double click on R2. Okay, good. Close that. So now, as you can see, let me just see. Does it show that it's connected? I don't think it's connected. Let's run it and see what happens. Okay, press play. Oh, it did. It actually did connect. Okay, good. The other versions didn't. That's the first time I've seen that. I guess, I just haven't been doing that for years. I've actually been going and deleting this line and then inserting that. So it's nice. You can just go and just snap them in there. Sweet. So that's going on. This guy, although it's funny how he didn't. Oh, let's just see what's going on here. Now it still shows that. I'm going to go over and click A+ and see what happens. Because I don't know why this is like this. Let me just do that. Okay, it turned into that. Now it says that. I guess maybe I clicked on the wrong thing when I associated that. I don't actually know. You figure it out. Okay, here we go. Let's run it one more time and press play. It goes out and it comes back. Sweet. So now we know how to find these components. We know how to associate two of them together. And you can't. You have to have two of the components in the diagram to associate them. For instance, this had a question mark in it before. I was not able to name that until I put this solenoid here. I'm not able to put relay contacts in here unless I had a coil in. So also this guy, I'm not able to put this guy in unless this is here. So what you're going to do is when you put components in, they're going to be associated with some kind of either mechanical switch, or they're going to be like a sensor switch, or they're going to be associated with a coil or some kind of output like a solenoid or a coil or a time delay coil. So when you're going to be doing these things, always put in the mechanical switches or the sensor switches first, and then then the coils and the solenoids, and then you can associate other things with them like switches and contacts and actually this solenoid over here. So I think we're good. I'm just going to delete this guy. Email me if you need anything more. As you know, when you want a delayed timer, you're just going to find the same thing here. You're going to go over here to where the coils are, and you're going to say delay coil. So if you need to do a timer circuit, which you will have to do for lap 6. Okay, bye.